righty, welcome back for another episode of Two Plane Sports. This is another highly anticipated recruiting video. This is our fourth attempt at recording this video. I don't know what our problem is tonight, but for some reason we just can't get it right. But we're going to get it this time. We're going to be talking about, four or five stars are going to be coming on campus from the 2024 class. If you hadn't already, go check out our two previous videos this week with Kobe McKenzie. We went in depth with his potential, what he could bring for the Sooners, and maybe play in this upcoming season, or is he going to redshirt? Be sure to check that one out. And then we released a video on Wednesday where we discussed the hiring of Mike Wells, the implications of that, the spring game talk, cool helmet, not cool helmet, depending on who you talk to. It's definitely interesting. And 2023 kids that are already on campus as we are recording this right now for a long weekend, all talented kids that are going to be, having great visits, seeing some spring practices, and the implications of that. We just hit 3,700 subscribers pretty recently. I've been asking you guys to be helping us out. It's free, hitting that subscribe button. Our next goal, we're going to be rolling towards 3,800. And as a way to say thank you, we just wanted to do some spring game ticket giveaways. So far, we've given away one pair of tickets of general admission tickets, and then we've got 3 more to give away. 2 will be general admission, and 1 will be in the suites. So this week, it will be another general admission ticket giveaway. So if you want to enter into that, like the video, subscribe, turn the notification bell, and then either like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter. Both would be great. Just one of the two, and just comment that you've done it, and then do Brandon's in a video challenge. So you'll want to stay for that in the video challenge, and once you do that, you'll be entered in, and we'll announce the winner on next Monday, and then you'll have a week to claim it, and we'll email you the tickets. So be sure to be keeping your eyes on this video through all the way through. And we'll let you know who wins it. And if you don't win it this coming Monday, just enter it in next week. We've got a couple more pairs to give. So the first guy we'll talk about today, like we said, there's going to be 3 defensive linemen and 1 offensive player that we're going to discuss. The first kid, we've already talked about him in a recent 2024 defensive lineman potential video, is T.A. Cunningham. T.A. Cunningham, he is the number 1 defensive lineman in the class. He's a 2024 5-star defensive lineman, 6'6", 265 out of Alpharetta, Georgia. Like I said, number 1 defensive lineman, number 4 overall player in the class. I don't know how many of you people follow him on Twitter, or you follow us on Twitter as well, because we're tweeting about T.A. Cunningham. He shows a lot of love to the Sooners, and obviously a lot of Sooner fans show a lot of love to him as well. It seems like that the new staff of Todd, Bates, and Venables have really hit it off with him, and the connection there, I assume they were recruiting him at Clemson, so that connection has already been started and just transferred over. But for going through his Twitter and just quickly scrolling through, I see a lot of OU stuff. I see a lot of, Sooner fans, help me out. It's a lot of all OU stuff, which, take it as you will with social media. But I think, especially with the younger kids, that are sophomores going in their junior year, social media can say a lot of where a kid is leaning. I think as we have gotten further and further, with more social media and the announcements and the, edits and everything else, I feel like social media lets you know exactly how they're feeling. I know sometimes they throw you off the trail a little bit to keep it interesting, but a lot of times you can read between the lines. And T.A. Cunningham, as a sophomore, he had 22 tackles for loss, 7 sacks, an extremely just a phenomenal athlete. I mean, how many sophomores, and we're going to talk about a couple other great sophomores, but there aren't many that will crack the varsity lineup alone and then record, 7 sacks in their first season on varsity. I mean, that's incredible. And, he's from Alpharetta, Georgia, which I don't know if that town rings a bell with anyone that's watching this. That's where the Overtons are from. So they're friends. Could it be that the Overtons and Cunningham are like, hey, long-term, let's play together? Jose, what do you think about Cunningham and the potential of him and those odds for the Sooners to land him?
Well, I hope that you are onto something with that Alpharetta connection, because that'd be pretty mean trio to put together, let alone all the other guys that are going to be coming with him and already on campus. But yeah, this guy's super talented. I 100% agree with the social media stuff. That's kind of where I see all myself, and kind of where, whenever we talk about these guys, like where I gauge the odds of us actually having an opportunity to have them commit. And guy like him and other guys that we've talked about always showing love to Oklahoma is definitely a good sign and leaning in the right direction. I think that this is going to be a really important person to focus on for the coaching staff during this weekend, especially since he's there for a long weekend. He'll get to see the practices. He'll get to meet probably all of the coaches, not just stick around with Todd, because even though that's his defensive line coach, he'll probably have run-ins with all the other coaches during some sort of team drills or film watching if he needs help or anything. But it'll be again a guy that we need to focus on. Like you said, number one defensive lineman in his class, and that could change. But I mean, he's got a pretty good start with, like you said, his sophomore season, not just cracking that varsity lineup, probably being one of their top performers, if not the top performer of his high school team. So TA, just go ahead and commit, bud. I know it's a long time away, but just do it. You're muted, Bonnet.
Muted.
Of all the four kids that we're going to talk about on tonight's pod, T.A. Cunningham is the one that I am currently feeling the most comfortable about. And kind of a lot of that is kind of just that social media presence that he has with Oklahoma at the moment. Granted, it is very, very early on in all of these kids' recruitment process, as they are all sophomores, at least that we're talking about tonight. But at the moment, as it sits right now, what is it, March 23rd, 2022, I am feeling quite confident that T.A. Cunningham will be a Sooner, just with the way that things are playing out. He has the perfect size, I think, for a defensive end. 6'6", 265, 270. That's exactly what Jason Taylor played at, who is an NFL Hall of Famer. You mentioned his 22 tackles for loss and 7 sacks. And a stat that pointed out to me, or that stuck out to me too, along with those 7 sacks and 22 tackles for loss, is he had 9 pass breakups on the season too last year, or as a sophomore. So to me, when I see that, I think he has the intelligence to understand if he's getting doubled, or if he's just not going to get home to the quarterback. He knows the next best thing: get your big body up there, that big frame of yours, and try to get a hand on the ball. And that's, if you're not going to get a sack, that's the next best thing you can do. Either bat it down, or even better yet, somehow send it 60 yards into the air, falls right into a lap of your safety or a linebacker for a turnover. So he's a monster on the field. He's got great size. I'm the most confident about T.A. Cunningham as it sits right now.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, social media isn't everything, but it definitely means something. You can't fake it. It just doesn't work. So, I mean, with Cunningham, I agree. Out of all these kids that we're going to talk about, I do feel the best about him. But also, like you said, I mean, we're talking, this is March of 2022. I mean, these kids won't sign at the earliest until December of 2023. We're a year and 9 months away. A lot of stuff can happen. As long as this coaching staff, Todd, Bates, and Venables, and overall the majority of it sticks together, they're going to have a great chance with him. Georgia, as OU moves in the SEC, is becoming an extremely targeted recruiting hotbed. I mean, because they produce a lot of talent. Obviously, you've got the Bulldogs there, and you've got Alabama there, Auburn, all these schools that OU is going to start competing with for great Georgia players. And speaking of another great Georgia player, someone that T.A. Cunningham is pretty good friends with is Heaven Brown Schuler. He's a 6'4", 290-pound defensive lineman out of Atlanta, Georgia, number 17 overall, number 2 defensive lineman, and a 5-star. So you got T.A. Cunningham, who's the number 1 defensive lineman. You got Heaven Brown Schuler as the number 2 defensive lineman, and they're buds, and they're coming to visit together. Brown Schuler has actually played a little bit of, he started playing varsity a little bit in his freshman season. He played 4 games. only had 1 sack last year. He ended up playing more freshman year. He played 6 games and had 1 sack. As a sophomore, he played in 4 games and had 4 sacks. He's an extremely talented kid. I mean, nearly the same size, just a couple inches shorter, but definitely heavier. So he's playing more of the interior defensive line. He's already pushing 300 pounds. And that's another thing we got to think about. These kids are sophomores. They're 16 years old. And they're already 6'4", 6'6", 260, 300 pounds. And these kids are like men at this point, basically, which is incredible to me. So they're really good friends. You think about Cunningham at number 1, Brown Schuler at number 2, David Stone is number 4, I believe, or number 3. And they all talk about playing together. I mean, that's pretty incredible. Now, David Stone is not going to be visiting this weekend. He's going to be at Florida. But Brandon, let me know what you think about Heaven Brown Schuler and his implications. I mean, I know he's a Columbia native, Columbia, South Carolina. He's been visiting Coach Beamer with the South Carolina Gamecocks. So they might be some competition.
I usually anytime on this show where you talk about some other school, I immediately say how bad they suck. I can't do that to South Carolina. I do like Shane Beamer. I'm a huge Shane Beamer guy. I'm pulling for Spencer Rattler down there in South Carolina, pulling for Big Stog still. So South Carolina is one school that I'm not just going to immediately dismiss and say they suck. I think Shane Beamer's doing big things. That's awesome. With Heaven Brown Schuler, we talked about it off before we recorded, which seems like 2 hours ago at this point, because we struggled tonight. We really did, guys who are watching. We had a fun time. But the 3 name thing, it's fun. We talked about Delarian Turner-Yell, Robert Spears Jennings. There's a couple more out there that are just slipped me. It's been a long night of trying to do this, but the size thing you mentioned, yeah, it's 6'5", 6'4", almost 300 pounds, and he is so young. He's 15, 16 years old. There's a lot that you can do with a frame like that in these couple of years before you actually get to college, whether you want to, get a little smaller, maybe you get that 275, 280, or kind of just add more bulk, more muscle, and play at a level a little bit above 300 pounds. There's no reason why this kid, he has the talent, he has the size, that he can't be the next Gerald McCoy or Tommy Harris at Oklahoma. It's going to be an exciting recruitment process to watch over the years, and let's hope he takes his talents to Norman.
Yeah. This seems to be a trend for this new coaching staff with defensive linemen. And it's kind of the reverse of the Lincoln Riley era, where we were seeing the number 1 through 5 wide receiver be interested in going to OU. Now we're seeing, it seems like we're turning the page and going to see the numbers 1 through 5 defensive linemen wanting to be players at Oklahoma, or at least entertaining the idea, which is really cool, because personally, defensive linemen are more important, in my opinion, than wide receivers. They're going to cause a lot more havoc on the field. So that's a good sign. And then specifically with Brown, I think he is going to definitely benefit in gaining some weight over the next couple of years. Like you said, he's only 16 and he's almost 300 pounds. Who knows when 24/7 was updated last with his measurables, but pretty big dude, only being 16 years old, and he's still got probably a lot of growing to do. And who knows, maybe during his visit this time around, he'll get to talk to Coach Schmitty and kind of learn some things that he can work on to not only improve for next season, but so he can continue to learn, add muscle to his body during the off season, and really excel over the next 2 years in high school ball. Because like you said, bro, we're starting to target that area of the country with Georgia and Florida a lot more, and we're going to start seeing Alabama come in, Georgia come in, Clemson probably, all these big schools that have won more recently when done big things for their program. So if we can add some sort of value to them in that way, where a coach is saying, hey, this is what you can work on, and these are the results that you can get from it if you are doing these little things to better yourself physically or on the field of play, that could speak, that could be a big thing for him and kind of make him feel like, hey, they really care about me no matter what. going to OU or not, they did at least this much to make me a better player at the high school level. And maybe when it does come to his commitment, he'll remember that and want to be at OU, because then he'll be with the coaches 24/7.
Yeah, and I couldn't remember what David Stone was, but he is number 3. And the reason why I was thinking about number 4 was in my mind, but it just popped in my head. Nigel Smith is number 4. So T.A. Cunningham, 1. Heaven Brown Schuler, 2. David Stone, 3, and Nigel Smith, 4. All 4 of these kids, the top 4 defensive linemen, what that means is we'll have visited OU all in the same month in the class. I mean, within a couple weeks, actually, because it was from March 5th to now. So, I mean, that's 3 weeks that we had the top 4 defensive linemen on campus. I'm not saying all 4 of them are going to play because, or commit, because that's just not reasonable to think. I mean, they're going to be able to go play. A couple of them will go play it somewhere else where they can get some time at some other big time schools. But the fact that we're even getting this many people on campus with this much talent is incredible. So speaking of top defensive talent, here's another one. Zena, he goes by the nickname Zoo, Umazulu. That last name might look familiar because OU was recruiting his brother Nito Umazulu, and he ended up being an offensive lineman for Texas in the last recruiting cycle. He's from Allen, Texas, 6'4", 210-pound edge rusher, number 26 overall and number 1 edge rusher in the class. He's a 5-star. This is really going to come down to if Texas A&M, Texas, and Oklahoma. Obviously, Texas might have the upper hand with his brother being there. And the fact that OU's getting him on campus as well. I mean, so you've got the number 1 through 4 defensive linemen, and then you've got the number 1 edge rusher coming in. I mean, it's got to speak volumes. 6 sacks, 10 tackles for loss last year as a sophomore. Remember that he plays for Allen. And if you guys have been following us, there's another specific guy that we talk about quite often along that defensive line from Allen High School, and David Hicks. And Hicks is like the number 1 or number 2 defensive lineman in his 2023 class. So he's competing with time and complimenting him. But still, I mean, it's just so much talent. He's interested. Does he want to go compete against his brother, or does he want to be be on the same team with his brother? Jose, what do you think?
I hope he'd rather compete with his brother than or compete against his brother than play with his brother. But I mean, I feel like, a lot of kids want to play with their family members and, create a legacy for their families at the same school. And it's not just with athletes. We see it just with regular students that follow where their parents went to school. It wouldn't, to me, it seems like Texas right now is a team to beat. But it is good that he's at least entertaining the idea of coming to Oklahoma. And I think it has to do a lot with the coaching staff, Todd Bates, Coach Miggy, Coach Venables, and what he can do on the defensive side of the ball with these coaches, teaching him and developing his talent over the next, or I guess once he gets to school, over 3 or 4 years, depending on how long he's there and the talent in front of him. But I mean, it's just like I said a second ago, we're going to start seeing these 1 through 5 rated 5-star defensive line talent come in and at least entertain the idea. And I like that he is teammates with DJ, because now DJ is going to, or when he comes back to school, DJ will they'll probably talk about like the differences that they saw, things they really liked about it. Probably get to talk a lot to Coach Bates together with FaceTimes whenever the coaches go down to Allen to do school visits or to do in-home visits. They might hang out together during that time as a group and kind of build that foundation and make them feel like they're already part of the team. So I don't know. I feel like this whole weekend, even though a lot of these guys are in the not 2023 guys, a lot of them are 24 and 25, it's going to build that sense of family for a lot of them, because a lot of them are unofficial visitors. They want to be there. They want to at least see what Oklahoma can offer them. And, Zoo is going to get to experience it, probably one of the biggest weekends that we've had at Oklahoma in regards to the recruiting in the last 2 or 3 years, even with Lincoln Riley and those huge barbecues he was doing in the past.
I'm just gonna call him Zoo, because I don't want to try and just butcher his last name real bad. But I kind of agree. There's a lot of fun in playing with your brother. I think everybody would think that's a cool opportunity to be able to suit up with your brother. Unfortunately for Zoo, his brother decided to play at Texas. Just it's an unfortunate situation. But on that same note, there's a lot of fun in playing against your brother too, or competing against your siblings. And as Brown mentioned, that 6'4", 210, 10 tackles for loss, 6 sacks. And the fun thing about them is not only would, like, if Zoo were to commit to Oklahoma, not only would he be playing like against his brother, like Oklahoma, Texas, but like he would quite literally be playing against his brother, competing against his brother if things went to plan, because his brother's a tackle and Zoo is a defensive end. Personally, I think it'd be fun in October if you line up directly across from your brother and you go out there and you sack the quarterback. 2 months later, you're home for Christmas Day, or you're all hanging out at Christmas, and Zoo can go to his brother and be like, "Hey man, remember at Red River when I sacked what's his face 4 times because you can't block me because you're horrible and you went to the wrong school?" And then he could be like, "Are you excited for the Charmin wipe your ass bowl while he's getting ready to play in a playoff game or a New Year's Six bowl, because that's what we're gonna do at Oklahoma." There's a difference in playing in the Charmin wipe your ass bowl and playing in a playoff or a New Year's Six. And that's what it's going to come down to. Like, do you want to play in that bowl, the Charmin wipe, or do you want to play for titles? That's what it's going to come down to, in my opinion. It's quite easy. I think you should be a Sooner. Just make the right call, man. I mean, he's a super talented kid, and you can't blame really either way, because it'd be awesome to play with your brother. But I do think he could have a lot of fun at Christmas time if he decides to come to Oklahoma.
Yeah, that's not a sponsored ad. We're not sponsored by Charmin. It'd be cool if we were, though. So another kid before we move on, just that we'll be visiting that we're not going to really go in depth of, speaking along the defensive line, a kid named Xavien Sims. He's out of Sherman, Texas, 2024 kid, defensive lineman, 4-star, number 66 overall, and number 7 along the defensive line. He's going to be visiting as well, but he has not received an offer from Oklahoma. And I believe when he's on campus this weekend, you'll see him tweet out an offer from Venables and the staff. You can't not offer a kid that shows up that doesn't have an offer and is as highly rated and talented as he is. Just something to keep notes on. We'll be watching his Twitter to see if an offer is extended to him. We'll switch over to the offensive side for the one kid we're going to talk about, an Oklahoma native in Stacy Gage, 5'11", 200-pound running back, 5-star, number 16 overall, number 2 running back in the class from the IMG Academy, but originally from Oklahoma, has offers from Alabama, Arkansas, Auburn, every big school. He can go play wherever he wants. Terrific athlete. Last year, part of the IMG Academy, he ended up, or I guess his freshman year, he ended up having 1,200 yards. That's pretty solid, if you ask me. I wasn't able to find his sophomore year, but he ended up having 1,200 yards as a freshman and scored 18 touchdowns. Extremely talented kid. Just the ceiling is extremely high, and him and David Stone being at the IMG Academy, being able to team up, potentially go back home for both of them to go back to the state of Oklahoma, go play where they're fans of and their families are fans of. And, you can recruit more kids from the IMG Academy. Brandon, what do you think about Gage and the potential of him?
Yeah, you definitely hope that him and David Stone are really close, and you hope that they are a package deal to Oklahoma, because I think we've talked about David Stone multiple times on this show now and how excited we are about him. So it's awesome that him and his teammate Stacy Gage are both considering us. You mentioned 1,200 yards, 18 touchdowns as a freshman. That's really strong stuff. But you look at that running back room overall, just in the future, what we have now, going forward, whatever. You've already got you've got commits, and you got Gavin Sawchuk and you got Javante Barnes on campus. You're looking at Richard Young, a 5-star in the 23 class, and now Stacy Gage. I think it speaks. We talk about the Todd Bates effect in this show all the time, but there seems to be a DeMarco Murray effect too. He seems to be hitting out of the park with these kids. He's got us in at least legitimate conversations or in the runnings with high quality running backs, 5-stars. It's exciting stuff, and it'd be awesome if, because you like I said, you've already got Gavin Sawchuk, and you've already got Javante Barnes committed. If you can get Richard Young in the 23 class and then Stacy Gage in the 24 class, as both 5-star athletes they are, just going forward, that running back stable at Oklahoma is just going to be, I mean, nasty for years and years to come if we're able to hit on both Richard Young and Stacy Gage. I mean, that's obviously the hope. Let's hope these visits go well, and I guess in DeMarco we trust.
Yeah, Stacy is a very good runner of the football. The 5 stars didn't come just by luck. If you watch his tape on 24/7, he looks like he runs the ball a lot like former Sooner Joe Mixon, with how balanced he is. Whenever someone just pushes him off a little, he can easily regain his balance. If he's stumbling, he knows how to get back up and gain that extra few yards after initial contact. That's what I really like about him. And he's, like we've said with all these guys, they're only 16 years old. According to the beginning of his highlight tape, he's actually 207 during the football season, and maybe he's going to be a little heavier. So I would assume by the time he gets to college, wherever he does go, hopefully Oklahoma, he's going to be like 6'1", 215, 220. And that's kind of a scary running back to go against, only at 18 years old at that point. And that's just a guess, who he could be, maybe a little lighter or a little heavier, but I mean, pretty big dude to try to tackle. And he's just going to get stronger as time goes on over the next couple of years at the IMG Academy. And yeah, definitely, like you guys said, hopefully him and David Stone are talking every opportunity they can about their time at Oklahoma. And I think David's going to have a lot more to say right now than Stacy, because David's been on campus like 3 or 4 times since this new coaching staff has been at OU. And I think this is Stacy's first time visiting with this staff. So, I mean, hopefully that he just has that just equally as good experience as David has at OU. That way they can just both make their commitments together, put us all at ease, bring them back home. And then in 2024 or 2025, whenever they get the opportunity to play, they can just run their home state and, get to the NFL.
Yeah. And, by that point, again, with all these 2024 kids, OU's going to be in the SEC. Rumors are could potentially be after the 2023 season. They get in there for the 2024 season, or even if they don't even go until when they're supposed to go, what's been announced right now. All these 2024 kids know they will be playing in the SEC at some point very early in their career. So, a lot of these 2022 kids, it's been a little bit up in the air what they're going to do. By that point, it doesn't matter. You're going to be in the SEC because I believe it's June 1st of 2025. So, a lot of them might redshirt, so you don't even spend a year of eligibility in the Big 12 at that point. So that's something also to note. A lot of talent. The sky's the limit. I mean, we really thought that these summer barbecues that the old staff was having was great, which they were. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they weren't. But we're just seeing a different level of interest on the defensive side. And there's still great offensive players that are interested in Oklahoma. I mean, we're going to continue to score points. We haven't really talked a whole lot on the offense outside of Stacy Gage, obviously on this video or the previous one. But there are great talented receivers coming on campus, offensive linemen coming on campus. Every position since this staff has taken over, people are interested in playing. And it's, for a second there, people thought no one wanted to go to Oklahoma anymore. And I think that's the total complete opposite now. So that's all we got for this video. Do you guys have any final thoughts before Brandon does his end of video challenge? All right, Brandon, what's your end of video challenge for everyone?
This is gonna be a fun one, I think. We're gonna take a trip down memory lane for all of us and all of our viewers watching, because we just talked about 4 really, really incredibly talented, gifted sophomores. But at the end of the day, they are sophomores, so they're 16, 15 years old in high school. When I was 16 years old in high school as a sophomore, if I remember correctly, and I'm pretty sure I do, because my first ever job, I was lifeguarding kids. I was saving lives in the summer times by day. At night, Brum and I were ding-dong ditching every neighborhood in the Tulsa metro area killing it, having a good time. Brum, you were mowing lawns at that point, if I remember correctly, right?
Oh, I was cutting grass all the
I'm
time.
saving lives. Brum's cutting grass. Hose, if I remember, for you in that time frame area, you were at Los Cabos in some capacity, correct? Okay, so there's our three stories. Me and Brum ding dong ditching. I'm saving lives. Brum is cutting grass. Hose is working at Los Cabos. We're 16. You know, we're young. We're grinding. We're doing our thing. We're figuring life out. Your turn, viewers. At 16, as a sophomore in high school, what are you guys doing? Where are you working? What are you doing with your friends? Go down memory lane with us, as we just shared a little bit of us with you. Take us through your memory lanes as your time as a sophomore or 16, you know, somewhere in that area. I think this will be a fun one.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see because, you know, it is, we actually are interested in getting to know more about you guys because we actually are starting to recognize a lot of names that are consistently in here. So put a little bit of a story together, I think that'd be pretty cool to see. So be sure to do that individual challenge. And remember, if you want to enter in for the spring game tickets, be sure to like the video, subscribe, turn the notification bell, follow us on Twitter or Facebook. Like us on Facebook. Everything will be linked below. And then comment done, and then do the individual challenge in your comment. Continue to follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. If you're on the go and you don't want to stare at us, I don't blame you. But other than that, we really appreciate it. We got to 3,700 subscribers. Let's start the grind to 3,800, and we'll catch you next time for some recap of this weekend, and probably another Who Dat or two coming up next week. Appreciate it. Thanks.